All right, team, let's talk protein. My last video, I talked about the theoretical development, or the theoretical hierarchy of development of an athlete, and the base of that is nutrition. So everything we do here is geared towards fitness. We want to make you stronger, faster, fitter, all right? Everything is about fitness. So correlates of fitness is things like reduced body fat, so losing weight, getting more muscle mass, like all those things, toning, all those things that you feel like you want come from chasing fitness, from improved performance. And one of the main things you have to do in this theoretical hierarchy of development of an athlete is nutrition. So we have to focus on that in order to achieve fitness, because as you pursue fitness, all those other benefits come along with it. So, thinking about nutrition, I was asking some members, how many grams of protein do you get every day? And the answers range from a specific number to, I don't even know how to track that. I don't even know where to start. So we're going to go through how to track your protein, giving you a target number to aim for, how to get that number, and just talk about some techniques around tracking and all that stuff. In terms of getting a number, really easy. There is no equation for the human body, but this is a good baseline place to start. You don't have to go right to this number, because just like anything else, it might take a little bit of a progression to build up to the number of grams of protein that, based on your body weight and such, you might want in a day. So we're going to simplify that, and we're just going to say body weight times 0.7, all right? So body weight times 0.7. Again, very simplified number here. So let's say it's a 200-pound individual. That's going to equal 140 grams of protein. Again, rough number, rough estimate, not perfect. Good starting point though, okay? So 140 grams of protein. How do I get that in a day? If I'm going to do, let's say, 3 meals a day, and this is where having breakfast or something actually can help, because it just chips away at your protein per meal. If you did 3 meals a day, you're looking at somewhere between 40 to 50 grams per meal. And that, of course, let's say you did protein shakes as well. So you did a protein shake, and then that would reduce that number as well. You would just take that away. If it was 30 grams of protein in your protein shake, now we're left with 110, and then you would split that out throughout your meals. But this is a rough estimate, and again, it could be if you have a smaller breakfast and you're only having 10 to 20 grams of protein in your breakfast, then that's fine. You would have a little bit more. So let's say you had 20 grams of protein for breakfast. That leaves you with 120 grams of protein. Then that leaves you with 60 grams of protein for your lunch and your dinner. Now, you may have heard that your body can only process a certain amount of protein within a certain time frame or per meal. That has been absolutely disproved. It is not true at all, so do not worry about that. If you're having 50, 60 grams of protein in a meal, totally fine. Your body is going to use it all. You're not just going to flush it out, okay? So I know that might be something some of you have heard, and we're just going to eliminate that as a concern. So 40 to 50 grams per meal. Let's build that out a little bit. Now, you get protein from more than just your typical animal products, dairy products, fish, chicken, eggs, beef, pork, all those things. There is a lot of different things that give you protein. First of all, your veggies. Most of your veggies have a little bit of protein. Mushrooms, broccoli, peppers, onions, all those things, even though it's not a ton, there is some protein in that. So we would need to track our veggies to see how much protein we're getting from those each meal. And you should be having veggies or fruit every time you eat, every meal. Then there's our complex carbs, okay? So simple carbs, that's like table sugar, candy, those sorts of things. There's probably not any protein in that. I'm talking about things like rice, beans, even pasta, bread, potatoes, all those things, they do have protein in them. They're absolutely fine to eat. You do not need to avoid those foods. So you would then also track that. So first would be your veggies, so tracking. 1, track your veggies, because that's the least amount of protein. 2, track your carbs. And again, we're talking good, whole foods, complex carbs. And then 3, you're going to do your protein source. So what ends up happening from this 40 to 50 grams per meal that we're starting with, your veggies, they might give you like 5 to 10 grams, let's say. 5 to 10. And then your carbs, same thing. You're probably going to be in like the 5 to, we'll say, maybe even 15 or 20, but we'll just say 5 to 15. And so even on the low end, if you're only getting 5 grams of protein from each of those sources, well, you know, if your goal is 40, 50 grams, we're only looking at like 30, 40 grams of protein from our actual lean protein source, which is a pretty standard serving. Or even if you're doing more veggies and a little bit more carbs, well, there's 25 grams out of that 50, you only need 25 grams of protein. So you're looking at, even at, let's say, 30 grams of protein, that's like a 6-ounce piece of chicken, a really standard size. So it's not as difficult to reach this number once you break it down and you understand, okay, I'm actually getting protein from these other sources as well, and I'm not going to wait until the end of the day to try and have all my protein, because even though your body can absorb large amounts of protein, 140 grams in one meal is a lot, all right? So we want to spread that out. If you are someone who skips breakfast, have a protein shake, something like that. If you say, you know, Brendan, I'm just never hungry in the morning, start with something small, like a yogurt, something like that. Over time, your body will adapt to, oh, I normally eat in the morning now, and you will start to feel hungry in the morning. We usually are just adapted to, I don't eat in the morning, therefore I'm not hungry. Your body will adapt to what you ask of it. So if you start eating, even if it's something small in the morning, your body will start to expect that, and will actually start to be hungry in the morning. You can start increasing that meal slowly. Again, like I said, this is a baseline equation. It is not perfect. And this number might not be attainable for you, whatever that is for you. Again, this is a 200-pound individual. That's what they're aiming for. Even if your goal is 100 grams of protein, that might feel like a lot to get to. So try to get to 60, 70, 80, 90 grams of protein a day first before getting to that full 100 grams. And as you go, it'll start to get easier and easier, especially when you remember that you're tracking those 2 factors in as well. So how do we track this? Tracking apps. There are a lot of apps on our phones that you can use. So I use MyFitnessPal. That is one of the most well-known, robust apps. It sounds like I pay for it just because of how much I use it. It sounds like some of the tracking features are limited if in the free version. And there's another one called Macros First that apparently you don't have to pay for to get a lot of the features you would want in terms of tracking macros. So these are 2 of the apps that I am most aware of. I would say MyFitnessPal is a gold standard, but it sounds like you do need to pay for that in order to easily see how many macros you've had that day, how many you have left over, things like that. All right. So once you've got your app picked out, then the other thing we're going to need is a food scale. These can be easily purchased at any grocery store, a Target, most convenience store, not convenience stores, but like probably a pharmacy, like a CVS or a Walgreens or something, but for sure at any grocery store or a place like Target or something like that. What you do with the food scale, set it down, turn it on, and you can then, put your plate on it. You'd press the zero out button again, and you'd put your veggies on your plate, and you would see how many grams in weight of veggie you are having. Ideally, we're aiming for somewhere in the 50 to 200 grams in weight. And that will give you numbers of how much protein is in that. So that's basically what the app does. The app, by putting the weight of your food item in there, it will do the calculation for you of calories, carbs, fats, proteins, okay? So you do that with your veggies first, then you do your carbs. Always measure your carbs raw, so your potato, like you do that before you cook it. Rice, there's a little bit of a trick that you can do if you're doing a big pot of rice to know. But yeah, you can do a single serving of rice, and you just want to get the weight of the rice before cooking. So yeah, carbs, we always measure before cooking. And then protein, you can measure it before or after, honestly. I always measure it after. There is some water weight that's lost, so it's not perfect. Just be consistent with what you do. Either measure it before or after. The other nice thing about measuring after is then you don't have raw food on your plate or anything like that, so it's just a little bit easier to do. But yeah, you'll put that on the food scale. You'll get how many grams it is, and then you will plug that in, and that will give you your number of grams of protein that you're getting. Now, if you are doing your veggies and your carbs, you're actually going to have a pretty good sense of your total calories throughout the day, especially if you add the fourth thing to track, which is your fats. So fats, this is anything you put in your pan. Olive oil, canola oil, whatever. This would be butter that you add to your rice, any sauces, things like that. Real simple way to do that is you put the sauce or whatever you're using, the oil, on the food scale, zero it out, and then you pour it out and you just put that back on the food scale. It goes in negative as well, so it'll actually tell you, all right, you just poured out 10 grams of oil, all right, and you would just track that as well. So this is our super simple way. I say simple. It might feel challenging at first. It's just different. Right now, you probably just eat. You don't think about it. But in a certain way, you are already measuring. Whether it's with your eyeballs, your stomach for how hungry you are, you're measuring in some capacity. So all we're doing is shifting your habit of how you measure, okay? But tracking, it's not something you need to do forever. It is really helpful to do for a week here and there every so often, just to make sure you're getting the right amount of food. And again, this is all geared towards performance. So if you're getting enough protein, if you're tracking how many calories you have, we're going to start to be able to fine-tune how much you're eating, which can help you optimize your performance, okay? And like I said, the closer you get to being fit, the more you work towards fitness, things like body fat percentage will go down, weight will go down, you'll feel more, you'll look better, you'll feel better. All that stuff is a result of this. So this is a crash course on tracking. And yeah, your homework is to figure out how many grams of protein you are having in a day. Use this formula to give yourself a target to shoot for, but the most important thing at the beginning is not so much hitting this target, it's just doing this tracking system, all right? And that will give you a sense, all right, this is how much I eat, how close am I to this number, right? You don't have to worry about actually hitting it, just see how close am I to that number. And then, okay, where can I get more protein from? How can I start working that in? Maybe that is a protein shake, maybe that's just a little bigger portion of your protein or a little bigger portion of these things. If you are eating whole foods, you're probably going to get a nice big meal. It might look like a lot of food, it might feel like a lot of food, but calorically, for most people, it ends up being less. So you get the benefit of, I'm eating more food, I feel more full, and I end up losing weight because I'm actually having less calories. So love this stuff. I could go on all day about it, but that is my method, my system for tracking. So track your protein in time. You can start tracking your calories and all your other macros as well. And if you want help with that, let me know. I do offer nutrition coaching services. So talk to me and let me know how it goes.